Ontario's public elementary teachers are ramping up the pressure in contract negotiations. If a deal can't be reached with the provincial government, the union will begin work to rule on November 26. The action will target administrative tasks, but it could escalate to a full-fledged strike if negotiations don't progress. So what's behind the decision? Sam Hammond is the president of the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario. He joins us from Toronto, just down the hall. Hi, Mr. Hammond. Nice to see you. Thanks for your time today.
Hi, Vashi. It's a pleasure.
So why announce now that you might start work to rule on November 26th? Why now?
Well, we started negotiations probably early August. There was very little movement over the last couple of months. During the month of October, we went out to our members and asked for a strike vote. A couple of weeks ago, we announced that we had historic support from our members with 98% strike votes. We thought that strike vote would send a message to this government to come back to the table and focus and be serious about some of the proposals we have on the table. And that hasn't happened since we announced that strike vote. So we've taken a step that we're provided with under the Labour Relations Act to move to a work to rule starting November the 26th. We've been very careful to give parents an extended heads up, if you will, in terms of when that will happen. And we've been very careful with that work to rule not to negatively affect students or their learning environments or safety. So we are taking this step once again to say to the government, we have proposals on the table that are student focused, and for the long-term benefit of students in publicly funded education. And we need the minister and the government, his team at the table, to start having real conversations about those proposals.
I want to ask you about those proposals in just a second, but first on the potential for work to rule to affect or not to affect students. Minister Lecce put out a statement today, and I'd like to get your response to it. And he specifically zeroed in on asking teachers not to participate in the fundamentals of math strategy after hours. This is his statement. It is disheartening, he says, to see that the ETFO has decided to specifically target several initiatives and resources designed to improve students' confidence and knowledge in math. The singular victim of this escalation is our kids. Your response?
That's just absolutely not true. We have been extremely careful in the administrative things that we have struck, administrative items and board administrative items. They will not in any way affect the day-to-day learning environment of students across this province. Our members, whether they're teachers, occasional teachers, our early childhood educators, and our ESPs, PSPs do an amazing job day in and day out. And the fact that they're not going to be going to a math strategies ministry session outside of the workday is not going to change the quality of publicly funded education that they provide on a day-to-day basis.
What is creating the distance, or what stands between the provincial government and your organization? Minister Lecce says, contends that mainly this is about compensation, and of course points to the legislation that was passed that limits the increase for the public sector to 1%. Is this about compensation, or is it about something else?
Well, again, I'm glad I have the opportunity to clear up some of the misinformation that the minister is providing to the public. And I think purposely, no, this round of bargaining, where we are right now in bargaining, is not focused on salary. We have had maybe 5 minutes of discussion over 3 months about compensation. And the rest of that time, every other session has been focused on increasing funding for students with special needs, students at risk, getting a commitment from this government on full-day kindergarten, our world-class full-day kindergarten model here in Ontario, and to have them get serious about health and safety issues, particularly violence in our classrooms and schools across the province. So it is not about salary. We have had much more focus on student learning conditions and our members' working conditions.
Let me ask you, because I'm guessing there are a lot of parents in this province watching tonight and listening to what you're saying. At what point does this turn into a strike? Is there sort of a line that needs to be crossed, or a moment in time, or some sort of standard by which your organization will judge this moves from work to rule to a strike?
We are, for now, we've implemented what's referred to as phase one. We could move further than that to a phase two with different things added to that. But we don't have a plan at this time, a timeline for any of that. What we're focusing on, and we wish the government would focus on, is serious conversations at the table to get a fair and reasonable deal. And we've been so appreciative this far with the support that we have gotten from parents and parents organizations across the province. And that's one of the reasons we're very careful about what we're implementing in our phase one starting November the 26th.
And on the same note, is there a way in which what happens, or what is set to happen on November 26th, can be avoided? Is it, for example, that a contract needs to be agreed to, or could there just be substantive progress in the talks that helps avert that? What does that look like?
Well, it would be wonderful if we could get a contract before November the 26th. We have dates next week and the week after. That would be amazing if the government got serious at the table and we were able to progress to that point. But barring that, if the government comes and starts to get serious on particular issues, that will help. For example, in our last contract, we had $90 million allocated for special education teachers and to support students at risk on a number of different levels. And this government won't commit to that on a go-forward basis. And that's critical, those supports for students on the table. That would move these discussions along towards a deal.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Really appreciate your time this evening.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Sam Hammond of the Ontario Elementary Teachers Federation. We did ask to speak with Ontario Education Minister Stephen Lecce as well about this. He declined our invitation. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.